Alright, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you happen to be. I am going live today to talk about Andy Ditch and the timeline that Mr. Beefy put out the other day, because I find it rather interesting, because I just want to let you know that I actually have been in the mental hospital with Mr. Ditch about 8 or 9 years ago. I can't remember exactly how many years ago it was now, but it was on the timeline, and we will talk about that. But I'm going to go ahead and play the video for you, and I will react. Unfortunately, I will not be appearing on screen today, just due to the fact that it is 100 degrees right now, and I am unable to actually do any sort of anything. So that's unfortunate. But we'll chat throughout this. I'll be keeping an eye on chat. You should see a little bit of a chat box down in the lower right hand corner of your screen. And yeah, with that out of the way, let's get the video underway. Should be about a 35-minute video from Mr. Beefy. And remember, go give the original video a like and a follow. But yeah, without further ado, let's get that video starting.
Now sit back and listen to the beat. Now sit back and listen to the beat. I'll sit back and listen to the beat. I'll sit back and listen to the beat. Now sit back and listen to the beat.
Hiyo everybody, what is up my friends, my fam? I hope everybody is doing wonderful today. Before we get into the video, of course I've got to ask you to like and to sub. I've checked my analytics and it seems that half of y'all are sub, the other half, they're not. So come on, hit that sub button like it was Annie's face. Hey y'all!
So, Mr. Beefy makes an interesting point there. That's the same thing that I notice, is that a lot of my viewers are not subbed. A lot of them are subbed, but it's probably about 30% unsubbed, 70%, or 30% unsubbed, 70% subbed. And I feel like a lot of YouTubers get that, which is good for growth. Obviously, like somebody like Mr. Beast is probably like 90% subbed, 10% unsubbed. But yeah, if you see a YouTuber that you like, subscribe to them. It helps them out a lot.
Also, please hit that like button. Apparently it is way more important than I thought. And you might as well check out the other channels. We do have the Daily Ditch and the Mr. Beefy 2.0, where I cover all locales besides the Poop Squatch, along with a Rumble channel where you can get all the older footage and newer videos where they're, not as censored, like here on YouTube where I have to tone everything down. So big up to Andrew Ditch, the Poop Squatch 2.0. I'm assuming he's the one that put all this together. He's the one who released the info on it, the video and everything. So that's who I'm going to credit. But big ups to him. This is possibly the best, I guess, timeline of Andy Ditch ever put together, and most well thought out and put together. Is really well done. Anyways.
So yeah, Andy Ditch, the Poop Squatch 2.0 is somebody who Andy's actually mentioned in the past. So I definitely do think that this is somebody who knows a decent amount. And I've actually looked at the PDF, and I can tell you that it looks pretty well planned out. There's some stuff in there that's like, okay, why do we need to know this? But then there's a lot of stuff in terms of this where it's like, what's going on? And remember, Andrew is a public figure, so documenting these things is perfectly within our rights through fair use, especially because Andrew does, in general, upload most of these things to YouTube or other places on the internet himself. And I am using Mr. Beefy's video to react to the timeline, and it's fair use. I'm actually using this as somebody who has a timeline, and I'm going to react to it as somebody who has had experience with Mr. Ditch.
We're gonna read. I'm gonna read the first part, and I'm gonna add some clips in to help fill in some stuff, and it's almost gonna be word for word for the most part. I don't want to fuck up anything. So before we get into it, once again, go give him some love. He definitely deserves it. Andrew Ditch, Poop Squatch 2.0. That's pretty much going to be the rundown. Let's move on. The story of Andy Ditch is a long one, and a one that's filled with multiple twists and turns, and we're going to get into that today. The story starts on June 7th, 1985, when Andrew James Ditch was born to Tom and Janet Ditch in Tonawanda, New York. He had two older siblings, Michael, who's 9 years older, and Danielle, age is unknown. Jan describes Andrew as a happy, easy, and a pleasure as a baby. Unfortunately, there were complications during Janet's pregnancy. Andrew's mother's pregnancy was complicated by the flu, diarrhea, toxemia, and weight loss with abruptio placenta. Andrew was delivered by C-section 1 week premature, secondary to fetal distress.
Now, I looked this up because I tried to film this video and not do it live. Abruptio placenta is something that basically means that the placenta detaches from the uterus prior to birth, and it can lead to the fetus not getting proper nutrients, not getting oxygen, can cause bleeding in the mother, and the symptoms often include abdominal pain. I'm not a doctor, but this certainly sounds like something that needs to be taken care of in the emergency room and may have contributed to some things with Andy. Now, being born prematurely by a week with a C-section, that's often not the end of the world. Because, like, your due date's an estimate, so sometimes a week early, a week late. I think I was born 2 weeks before my mother's due date, but I was born technically normal, just with a hernia, so, yeah.
87 or 88, the exact date is unknown, Andrew underwent inguinal hernia surgery. In 1988, Andrew was enrolled in a Head Start program at age 3. Not long after, he was diagnosed with an expressive language disorder. On a side note, Andrew did claim that he did not start speaking until as late as age 12 or 14.
Now, expressive language disorders are not something I'm familiar with, but I assume it just means that he has a difficult time expressing himself and using language to mean what he wants it to mean. So if he means, I want this, but he says something totally different, it's a thing like that. Now, the thing about Head Start is in New York, it's actually pretty well funded, so especially because this was right around when Reagan was in, so it was probably even more well-funded than it is now, but right now it's still funded, so Andy having that opportunity is actually really awesome, and I'm actually very happy that he had that opportunity.
This is untrue. Andrew has documented speaking words at 11 months, sentences about 4 years old or later.
My school record said I didn't talk until I talked early, but it was 9 complete sentences into age 4.
Okay, not talking in complete sentences until age 4 is 10 years earlier than not talking until age 14. So that's already the first lie we've got here.
The thing is I didn't start talking until I was around 5. 5 or 6 or 8 years old when I started developing my language.
In 1988 to 89, aged 3 to 4.5, Andrew was physically and emotionally abused by his half-brother Michael, who was subsequently placed out of home.
Dad's opinions are, and I'm sick.
Is why he can lie about me.
Now, this is unfortunate. Andrew is, of course, a victim here of something, and his brother Michael being placed out of the home is most likely the correct outcome, because I believe the brother would have been like 13 or 14 years old, so like an actual like prison sentence probably wouldn't have been a thing that could happen.
And saying that I was sexually abused when I was not. And he will use that as a way to get after my brother Michael and Danielle and his ex-wife. And... Well, Mom, she's not answering. Okay, your grandmother can handle somebody doing something to their grandchild. No. When a person can't talk, it does not. It doesn't matter. Not talking is not caused. It's not caused by sexual abuse. I know, but Andy, just think. The behaviors and symptoms that are for that is fine, but you didn't give consent. Now, did you? Because it didn't happen.
Now, Andy saying that it didn't happen is something that will come up throughout the timeline, because he often will say that it did happen or it didn't happen based on the needs of the situation. So, we don't actually know, but I assume that it did.
Dad! I don't know where you guys are convincing them. Why did your mother hate Mike so much, or my grandma hate Mike so much, and hated my whole side of the family? Danielle were not hers? I don't know, Dad.
So you think maybe they did it?
It's common.
You think they did it as an excuse? That they didn't
Dad,
want anything to do with them?
no. I think
Because your mother hated them.
As a side note, as of the creation of this timeline, Andrew currently denies that the abuse occurred. He had made statements implying that his mother and grandmother coaxed him into a lie about being essayed so that they could have his half-siblings removed from the home.
So, for the record, that is July 12th, 2025 at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Andrew has also stated that Tom only claims Andrew was essayed as a way to get after Michael, Danielle, and Tom's ex-wife. While Andrew's records confirm that essay occurred, as shown by the volume of references to it and the analysis of Andrew's behavior afterwards, whether Michael was the culprit or not is unclear. The majority of Andrew's childhood records identified Michael as the abuser. However, in his videos, Andrew has stated multiple times that a friend of Michael's was the abuser. And up until this day, Andy is still back and forth on whether or not it happened, and have stated on multiple different occasions of different essay events taking place.
I was sexually abused at age 4. I was a victim of sexual abuse at the Cambridge site, the one that where the aide had touched me. I forgot everything that was done to me when I was a child, other than the one time when I was 12 years old with the teacher that did it.
the only
So, a lot of this sounds like somebody who had something happen to them that was traumatic, and unfortunately they can't remember it, possibly from something like PTSD, which I have. I have PTSD that does affect my memory, but I'm, again, not a doctor, so I can't diagnose that or anything, but that's just what it seems like in my unprofessional opinion.
incident I remember, Dad, is having Mike's friend at the corner stick a stick in my butt.
While one recent medical dictation identified both Michael and his friend as Andrew's abusers, Andrew's motivation for currently denying that his sexual abuse occurred is that he now realizes abuse of this nature is closely linked to the psychopathology he currently displays. He, being Andrew, has reported sexual behaviors consistent with past sexual. Here are some significant quotes from Andrew's records regarding his abuse.
Abuse!
His half-brother Michael threatened to burn the house down and delete the family if he, being Andrew, told that Michael put a piece of wood into Andy's anus and threw Andy down steps. The next one is Andrew.
Now that certainly sounds like something somebody should be in jail for, and I'm sorry, I didn't realize that the title didn't change, so unfortunately this is not what you were expecting, so I'm sorry about that. But yeah, please don't do those things, and yeah, it sounds like the brother actually did do something to Andrew.
Feared that Michael would burn the house down, had severe insomnia, and complained of pain in his rectum. He also told his parents that his brother pushed an object up Andrew's rectum. Ouch! Michael reportedly pushed Andrew downstairs and force-fed him deodorant sticks, hopefully the gel kind. Next, the patient with severe abuse by half-brother Michael, resulting in recurrent dreams about him and frequent waking thoughts of Michael hurting him and family. The parents state that they were unaware that the alleged abuse was occurring. However, it does appear that suspicious behavior of Andy's half-brother was either overlooked or excused. Patient has been sexually fondled with possible insertion behaviors by his brother Michael as a youngster.
Now that's quite disturbing to hear, and obviously it sounds like Andy has been abused, especially as a childhood, in the childhood, and that's why that this is an important part of the timeline, because it may not excuse the behaviors that Andrew has engaged in modern times, but it may end up offering an explanation. We can't be certain. We can't be certain at all, but that's quite disgusting. And Andrew's parents not knowing? It's something that happens.
He has suffered chronic PTSD symptoms from this. He, being Andrew, reports having seen his half-brother, an alleged abuse perpetrator, taunting him on the streets. The probability of this occurrence is thought highly unlikely, and in this and other reportedly rambling verbalizations, Andrew was thought to be disassociating by outpatient clinical staff. In April of 1988, Andrew's brother Joseph Ditch was born. In '89, at 4 years old, Andrew was documented as being violent and angry, beating on other children in his class.
Now, I can tell you that that's completely inappropriate behavior, but all behavior is communication. I have parts of a degree in education studies, and that's something that we learned, is that all behavior is communication, so the teacher likely should have referred Andrew to some sort of services, as well as, of course, discipline.
From the year 1989 through September of 1991, age 4 through 6, Andrew was enrolled in the Language Developmental Program, otherwise known as LDP. In 1990, the exact date is unknown. According to a neighbor, Andrew's parents would lock him out of the house when he was 5 years old. They go on to quote, "You had problems when you were 5. They used to lock you out of the house, Andy. I threatened to call the cops."
You had problems when you were 5.
Yes, I know, Sue.
They used to lock you out of the house, Andy. I
Yes.
threatened to call the cops.
Yes, I know, Sue.
In 1990,
Now, if the City of Tonawanda Police Department had actually had police contact with the family at that point, Andrew likely would have ended up in Child Protective Services custody and probably would have ended up having a different life, but unfortunately, we can't live in hypotheticals.
February, Andrew was diagnosed with adjustment disorder. Later on that year, on June 19th, Andrew was assessed to have an IQ of 89. Lastly, in that year, in September, due to his aggressive behaviors towards LDP staff, Andrew was transferred to a 1211 emotionally disturbed class at the Fletcher School in Tonawanda. A 1211 classroom means there are no more than 12 students, one full-time special ed teacher, and one full-time paraprofessional. September 17th, 1992 through November 25th, due to his alleged physical, mental, and abuse, as well as his mood swings and coprasis and physical/verbal aggression, Andrew was placed in special education program. It's worth
So that's often what ends up happening is somebody will start in a 1211 or a 611 class and then move fully into special education programs with potentially altered curriculum, potentially not altered curriculum, but with services like occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, ABA therapy. I'm not a proponent of ABA therapy, but schools do sometimes provide that. Sometimes the schools can provide counseling services or get ways for the student to receive outside counseling services paid for by the school.
Worth noting, Andrew sometimes points to mentions of encoprasis in his older records as evidence that he still requires diapers. This is a deliberate misinterpretation. For further explanation, there's a link on the original page. November 25th, 1992 to March 22nd of 1993, Andrew was admitted to the Western New York Children's Psychiatric Center inpatient program after putting his fist through a window and threatening others and self in school. And some significant quotes from these records regarding this. Seems to be an ongoing battle with parents without sense that they can protect him, and this ultimately leads to his aggressive behavior and defense of identification with the aggressor, as when 3 weeks ago he threatened to take out his penis when being interviewed by this writer. Dr. Cam prescribed imipramine on a trial basis in 1992 with no clear-cut response. Is a tricyclic antidepressant. February of 1990.
Now, if you're a danger to yourself or others, you're going to get sent to the psychiatric hospital. You're going to be there for a minimum of 72 hours. In New York, we call it a 941 or a 945 hold. And threatening to take out your genitals, no matter what your age, is inappropriate behavior. But at that age, it feels like it was learned behavior, making me think that the accusations against Michael and the friend were true.
1993, Andrew underwent further surgery on his testicles. This was like exploratory surgery, where they had to really take everything out and look. And they removed it because it was possibly cancerous or precancerous.
I had testicular surgery at age 7. My testicle was removed.
From June 11th to September 3rd in 1993, Andrew was also admitted to WNYCPC for a second time after he assaulted his brother Joe.
So Andy's brother Joe still lives with him, or did live with him. I'm not 100% sure if Andy's back in Tonawanda or if he's at the group home in PA right now. I can't actually get a good answer on that. But assaulting your brother at that age, I think he's at this point, 1993 is 8. So assaulting your brother at that age will often get you to end up in the psychiatric hospital because you're a danger to yourself and others, and you proved it.
When I actually try to hurt you because I don't want to go back with you.
Some quotes from this little section was, "This young man has been demonstrating increasing aggressivity both at home and in school, requiring a frequent restraint for lengthy periods of time. He has also been self-abusive in the form of headbanging and biting himself. An assault on brother at home has likely prompted the Ditches to consent this rehospitalization in their son's regard, as he has presented with potential for dangerousness to both self and others in multiple settings." Andrew was previously on Melaral. Parents note that since being on no medication, aggressive behavior has increased. Melaral, it is an antipsychotic medication typically prescribed for individuals with schizophrenia. Andrew would have been 7 to 8 years old while taking this. It's also noted that he kicked his teacher, punched his brother, bit himself, banged his head, slept poorly, said that he will hurt himself while being disciplined. According to the father, Andy required repeated restraints in school, where he focused on sex drawing genital anatomy and being generally unmanageable. Andy has a long history of aggressive outbursts, soiling.
Now, I believe that the drawing of genitals at that age is inappropriate. So, yeah, not very good, but it is a thing that happened.
Hitting others, throwing objects both at home and in school. Encopretic episodes, which were observed prior to admission, had also reportedly decreased in frequency. With no mentions of medication, toileting schedules, or routine, this statement implies that Andrew's encopretic episodes, soiling himself, are not purely psychological in nature, being unable to feel when to go, as Andrew currently claims.
So, speaking of needing to know when to go to the bathroom, I have to go to the bathroom, so I will be back in a minute, but have some fun thinking about that stuff. Now, no person will ever be 100% accident free, but in general, the average person probably has an accident every year or two.
He presents thinking style which brings psychotic process into question, but it is difficult to determine whether he is truly psychotic. The current pattern of thinking displayed suggests a marked predisposition to severe pathology in the future. September 9th, 1993, Andrew attended the Stanley G. Fox School in a 611 classroom.
So that's a special education classroom with one teacher, one paraprofessional or aide, and up to 6 students. Sometimes they have less.
Please note, Andy often refers to the Fox School as a school for autistic kids. While some autistic children may attend the Fox School, it is not specifically for autistic children. The Fox School serves students aged 5 through 21 years who have special learning, social, and emotional needs. Also, a 611 classroom means there are no more than 6 students, 1 full-time special ed teacher, and 1 full-time paraprofessional. These classrooms serve students with very high needs in most or all needs areas, and those whose behavior is characterized as aggressive, abusive, self-abusive, or extremely withdrawn.
So, self-injurious behavior is something that can cause you to get into a 611 classroom. It can be lack of fine motor skills, causing you to have difficulty doing activities of daily living. Oftentimes, the paraprofessional is actually somebody who is more akin to a CNA than an actual teacher's aide in these types of classrooms. And it's not necessarily a school just for kids with autism. It's a school for special needs kids, and the Individual Education Act, which is what people can get IEPs through, is something that students can use through age 21, meaning that if for some reason it prevents them from graduating a traditional or alternate high school at age 17 or 18 like normal, the IEP does allow them to stay in the school in those classrooms until age 21, and I think that's generally a good thing.
October 7th of 93 up until April 8th of 94, Andrew was admitted to WNYCPC for the 3rd time after threatening to delete his mother.
Andy got out of the hospital on my birthday. Literally the day of my birth.
What are my behaviors when I'm upset? Whether meltdown or not?
You're throwing things all over. You're hitting me, kicking me. You try to trip me up.
For the past week prior to admission, Andrew had been defiant and threatened to delete his mother, was aggressive and possibly dissociating. The behavior was reportedly triggered in that he alleged he saw his half-brother on the street in the neighborhood. On the date of readmission, the patient had reported to school staff that he had seen his half-brother on the street with his pants pulled down and firing a gun.
Now, if that had actually happened, which based on how Andy is, we can't be sure if it happened or not, but if that had actually happened, that would upset me too, especially considering at the time Andy had said that his brother had unfortunately caused him harm in the past. So, yeah, I can see why he had the reaction. It's not an appropriate reaction, and it did require some level of care.
Clinical summary: this is an 8-year-old boy with a past history of SA by an older half-brother and a tendency to be aggressive and prone to dissociative episodes when under stress. Delusional about his perpetrator stalking him, parents seem to reinforce the delusional system. Possible neuroleptic medication application was effected on an emergency basis on today's date. Neuroleptic medication is also known as antipsychotic medication. In an interview with Dr. Ramirez, Andy demonstrated dissociative symptoms and described himself as 3 different persons. When subject of different personalities was introduced, Andrew indicated that he talks about 3 Andrews for the effect it has on adults. Based on reported history of severe traumatic experiences, which include alleged sexual trauma in conjunction with a number of emotionally toxic factors in family history. Andrew's prognosis is guarded. Weaknesses, history of SA, language disorder, and dissociative episodes when under stress. The marital history, Tom and Janet's, includes some domestic violence that has been observed by both children and seems to have contributed significantly to Andy's internalized anxiety. Note, unfortunately, this document does not go into any detail regarding the domestic violence, neglecting to mention its frequency, perpetrators, or other significant information. Final diagnosis: Axis 1, post-traumatic stress disorder, oppositional defiant disorder. Axis 2, expressive language disorder. Axis 3, bronchial asthma by history.
A lot of people have asthma that they can outgrow. I don't know if Andy still has asthma or not, but that's kind of interesting that was noted in a psychiatric visit. And then also there's some evidence here, I think, potentially of like what is it called? I don't know what it is, but when you have like when you're a system, I don't know what it's actually called now.
Axis 4, psychosocial stressors. Severe past history of SA and conflicting family dynamics. April 7th, 1994, Andrew was placed in a residential program at Connors Children's Center upon his mother's request. Connors Residential Treatment Center is a program that serves boys ages 5 through 14 who exhibit severe emotional disturbances. Somewhere around 1997, Andrew played Challenger baseball. On his card, it says that he played for the team Yankees. He was the Challenger League baseball, of course. Coach was Larry, left field, first base. He hit 5 home runs. At the time of playing, he was 5'10", 230 pounds. The Challengers Baseball is an adaptive baseball program for individuals with physical and intellectual challenges that accommodates players ages 4 to 18.
I think that's really cool that Andrew got to play baseball, hit 5 home runs that season, and I think it's really cool that there's a Challenger Baseball League that's an adaptive league. Now, this was 31 years ago. Ish. I don't know if it's still around, but if it is, it would be really cool, and people in the area who are eligible should absolutely take advantage of it if they want to get involved in baseball. But remember, there isn't just playing baseball to get involved in baseball. I do baseball commentary. Friends of mine do baseball trading cards, things of that nature. There are other ways to get into baseball. But if you want to play baseball and you physically can't, and you can go into an adaptive baseball league, give it a try.
December of 1997, Andrew was discharged from Connors Children's Center at his parents' request. Somewhere in between 97 and 98, the exact date is unknown, Andrew, at age 12, attacked one of his teachers, breaking her ribs. This all came about from a supposable essay event that happened to Andy in the nurse's shower while he was using it. And apparently, while being patted dry, the event took place.
Now, all of that just seems weird. If it happened, it's unfortunate and I feel bad for Andy. But why was he in the nurse's shower? Why was somebody patting him down? There's a lot of questions I have there.
At this age, was only like a 50 or 60 words in my vocabulary, whatever it was not many. What? Punched the teacher, got restrained, kicked her in the chest, broke her ribs.
July 9th to August 17th in 98, Andrew was admitted to the Bryland Hospital, a privately owned mental health hospital for children. It was consistently recommended that he needed a one-on-one aid assistance and constant adult supervision. Additionally, it was reported that appellants, Andrew's peers, interactions were verbally aggressive, sexualized, condescending, and inappropriate.
Now, those things being inappropriate and happening at that hospital means that there should have been somebody there to help take care of it, but unfortunately treatment doesn't always stick. And Bryland is a hospital that only really takes private pay insurance, not any type of Medicare or Medicaid. It's generally regarded as a good hospital compared to the other 2 mental health facilities in the area.
May 20th of 1999, Andrew was taken to ECM